Richard.
Well, I think the most important process is the community consultation, and over the last 20 years, the availability and being available for the public to hold community forums and these sort of community gatherings, I think, are really tremendous, and that's what really makes you want to be involved in the community. It's very easy to fall into the trap that once you get elected, then you lock yourself away or you become inaccessible to the public, and that does happen, and there's many instances of that, and I'm sure members of the audience here tonight would be well aware of that. But I think if you have in mind that you are going to be accessible to the public, and my phone over the last 20 years or so, you know, whether it's after hours, after 10 at night, or on the weekends, you know, I am there, and I think that is important. Once you start to break that link, link or communication chain between yourself and the representatives, then I think you're on the slide, you're on the way out. And I think also too that by convening groups, and there are all sorts of issues that arise, and I think one that we have discussed tonight has been the matter of public transport. There should, and say I was successful on the 1st of August, and because this matter is still on the boil, there would be consultation. I would be calling meetings. I would be talking to the people. If there's going to be major changes to the planning scheme which affects Clarence or Pembroke as part of the Clarence planning scheme, then again that does impinge and is directly upon them, and the part of the process by which the person in Legislative Council does have an opportunity to have influence on that, taking on board the concerns of the residents. So I think the key thing in this whole thing is to be able to maintain contact with the people. Once you lose that, I think that is when you really should consider about getting out and not being representative of the reasons you've been put in there.
Thank you, Richard. Sharon.
Yes, I totally agree with the point that all politicians should be accessible. You know, I'm sick and tired of minders telling me, what's your issue? What issue have you got? What do you want to see this senator about? Or what do you want to speak to Duncan about? You know, it's too much screening, too much filtering. And there's one phrase I read in the papers the other day, was that people nowadays are over prudent. You know, they are paralyzed by prudence. And there's this collective non-responsibility. I'm not responsible for this, no, and he's not, so everybody is not responsible for anything. So I strongly believe if I ever get selected, I will be accessible to my constituents. Whether I have to skip my lunch or skip my dinner, I will have to listen, because that is very important, to listen and to act accordingly. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. Peter.
I agree with Kate. Being independent, I can agree with anyone I like. The Planning Appeals Tribunal has become like a court. They are trying to keep the average person out by making it rigid and tough and judicial. We don't want that. We want an open, transparent, honest government. Now, a classic example is when the government hijacked water and sewage from the Clarence Council and all other councils. That is a total disaster, and it's going to get a lot worse. Today I had a builder ring me. He wants to finish his house and he can't get approval for the plumbing. They said, oh, maybe 3 to 4 weeks. These people want to move in a week's time. Nobody knows where to go. The place is in a complete turmoil. It should never have happened. Michael Aird, in his wisdom, said we want sewerage and water from the councils. Why? Because we were doing very well out of it. He saw that and said, okay, we'll take that. We want to do something with that. We want to make the money that you're making. And if your bills will be going up 10% this year, wait till next year. You're in for a very, very rude shock. I agree with Kate.
Thank you, Peter. Wendy.
I think it's very important for politicians to have a set of agreed values as well as clear rules about what they can and can't do. In the organisation I work in, we have developed a set of values that guide our behaviour. And one of those values is consultation, collaboration and co-design with the community. Now, I would suggest to you that it would be a really good idea for our politicians to develop those values, and if I'm elected, I will be pushing for such values to be agreed upon. I think it's very important as a politician to be accessible, as the other candidates have spoken about, and it's important that you're out and about in the community. I was at Eastlands today, out and about in the community at my stall, and I was even shaking hands with the Premier today. You need multiple communication channels. Not everyone can attend a public forum, but obviously we have the internet, we have the telephone, we have other ways of communicating. I think the consultation, collaboration and co-design process would have or is critical in planning situations, and I have grave concerns about the proposed planning legislation whereby any project over $10 million will be declared a project of regional significance, taking it away from the community, and it will be the Minister's decision that is not reviewable as to whether or not that project proceeds. So I think everyone as a community needs to do something about proposals that are going to take responsibility away from them. Thank you.
You ready? And John.
Thank you, Mark. I do agree, Wendy. I think that's 100% correct. I know Kay's done a lot of work with the Crown's Council planning scheme, and I also fear if the government take any development over $10 million as regional significance and not give you, the people, the voice to say no, it is a real concern. Peter Cooper raised water and sewage. We know what a farce that was, and we know how many, I won't say lies, but mistruths we were told by the certain minister involved there. So yeah, I do have some feelings. I do agree with you, Kay, but as you know, with a lot of us up here, our door will be open. There will not be minders. Our door will be open.
Thank you, John. Ladies and gentlemen, as we approach 9 o'clock, we've gone past the time, but we'll have certainly have a final question, please, from the floor, or a couple more, if that's if we would. I'm sure all the candidates are very happy to stay behind us. But we'll a question here, sir, please.
Thank you. A question for the. Thanks, mate. Unaccustomed to public speaking as I am because it's turned off. A question for all candidates. First of all, I had a look in the dictionary for public service, and unfortunately the definition seems to be a bit blurred in my dictionary. My definition is that it is somebody who is paid by the public or elected by the public. I've got a two-barrel question. What is your definition of a public servant? And two, I live outside Pembroke, but I have been to the Pembroke office and I've had a great deal of help. Would you do the same for me if you were elected?
James, can we?
Brooke, can I answer the first question first? Depends on how close the election was, I suppose. That's humour. Wasn't very funny. That's because the first question's harder to answer. I mean, what do we think of as public service? I should imagine it's fulfilling the role and the expectations that the community have of your particular role. And that is to not only assist in the governance, but assist in solving the problems of the people of Pembroke. As Sharon said, listening and then finding out what you can do about it.